All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Fordham Sports Analytics Roundup. I am your host and Chief Marketing Officer, Aiden Baysham, joined by my co-host and President of Fordham Sports Analytics, Naman Lakhani. I think I said your last name right there, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Lakhani?
That's
Yeah.
correct. How's
Okay,
it going,
good,
guys?
good. So we're here, October 16th, our first episode of the academic school year. We're aiming to bring you guys more episodes this year. We want to do some more content with the podcast, hopefully bring on some new faces. But here in our first episode, we're in the thick of the MLB postseason, a wonderful and exciting time of year for baseball fans. It can also be very stressful for a lot of fans as well. I know my heart has definitely been racing during some moments in Yankees games. I know Naman is probably the same way. Being in New York City and the Bronx at Fordham University, a lot of students around here are Yankees and Mets fans, and I think we're all feeling pretty good about our teams right now. The Yankees are heading to Cleveland with a 2-0 lead in the ALCS, and at the time of recording this, the Mets are just a few hours away from starting Game 3 of the NLCS versus the Dodgers. They're tied up at 1 apiece, and both teams have looked pretty good. The Mets have looked like a team of destiny, really. Just a lot of late comebacks from them, insane moments. They have a lot of energy. They're a team to be scared of, if you ask me. The Yankees, for the most part, have played really sound baseball as well. And even though some of their heavy hitters aren't hitting, they're still producing, but not in the way you would expect, of course. Aaron Judge hasn't been hitting exactly well. Austin Wells has looked not great too, but Naman and I are both diehard Yankees fans, so we're really going to focus on the outlook of their postseason thus far and in the future, just going forward. So Naman, I just want to ask, how are you feeling about the series so far, Yankees playoffs in general? Are you confident, nervous? They're only 2 wins away from the World Series now and finally getting over the hump.
So, to be honest, as a Yankee fan in the last 15 years, I've kind of learned not to set too high expectations for myself because it's sort of just destined for failure at that point. But I do have to say, this is the best I've felt in a while. Of course, 2017 and 2019 looked good till we were cheated out of one by the Astros. But I've got to say, this Guardians team isn't looking great, so that always helps our odds. And one quick thing to point out is that even throughout the series, our hitters have not been able to hit with runners in scoring position. And if we're able to take games like this, even without our hitters not showing up in those big moments, that's honestly a good sign going forward, because we're bound to start hitting in those positions.
As we said, the Yankees offense hasn't been performing as expected, not hitting with runners in scoring position. Haven't really relied too much on the long ball, although they've been hitting the long ball still. A couple guys have been great, have been Gleyber Torres and Giancarlo Stanton. You really can't say enough about them so far. Gleyber Torres has been really excellent. He's 7 for 24 with a 292 average, a 933 OPS, and a 170 WRC plus. He's got a couple of doubles. He had a home run in game 1 of the ALDS. He's just been a really good table setter, swinging first pitch, getting on base, taking walks. When the Yankees have traffic on the bases or they're having some kind of rally, it feels like every time he's involved in some way. And just last night, he was on base when the Yankees scored on Brian Rocchio's dropped pop-up. And then he was also on base for Judge's home run. Of the Yankees' 25 runs this postseason, he scored 7 of them. So Gleyber has been a really productive player thus far. Kind of a surprise. He's been, tearing it up in the leadoff spot since he got moved there. I'd say like somewhere in mid-August, I think. And then another guy who's just been, on a tear, making this Yankees offense productive is Giancarlo Stanton. Playoff Stanton, man. He always shows up when it matters most. You can say what you want about him in the regular season. Oh, he gets injured. Oh, you're tired of seeing him swing at low and away sliders. Well, who cares if he's producing like this in the postseason? Because this is where it matters. He's batting 304 so far with a 1.037 OPS and 183 WRC plus. That's just out of this world. He had a home run to take the lead late in game 3 of the ALDS, and he had also had an RBI double that game as well. He also had a home run in game 1 of the ALCS for some much needed insurance runs, and it was an absolute moonshot. He absolutely crushed that ball, and he's just seeing a lot of pitches. He looks really, really poised, calm. He's balanced. When he's swinging, he's not, like coming out of his shoes or coming off balance. Uh, and he's spitting on close pitches too. He's just seeing the ball really, really well. So, Naman, what are you seeing from, Stanton and Glaber so far? They've kind of been the heart of this Yankees offense.
Yeah, so just to throw a couple more stats in there, I think Glaber's looked really amazing in particular. I know everyone knows Stanton's been going off, but just to point out the fact that Glaber's actually had a 433 OBP and a 500 slugging throughout this playoffs, which is extremely huge for the Yankees, especially with him in the one spot now. And that's something that the Yankees struggled to produce throughout the regular season. As I know towards the end they had Glaber there, but I know they rotated with Volpe. They even had Ben Rice in there for a couple games. There was just constant rotations and not a lot of production in the one hole. And to see Glaber consistently producing there, especially in a major time like the playoffs, has been huge. And to add on to that, he has had a 170 WRC plus so far, which is honestly something no one would have expected. But I think that's honestly come in huge so far. And something that speaks to the volumes Glaber has actually done for the team and throughout the year, rather than just the playoffs, is his rolling WRC plus for the last 140 games actually. And this goes all the way to the beginning of the season, has consistently been going up, and he ended at a spot near 135 to 140 through near the end of the season. So honestly, just seeing the fact that he's somehow improved consistently throughout the season gives me good hopes, not only for this year, but might want to take that into consideration when we think about re-signing him, because there's not a lot of second basemen out there. But yeah, there's something Cashman and Hal hopefully keep in mind. But other than that, Stanton, like Aiden said, has just been absolutely out of this world. He's been seeing pitches like no one else. And I know this is something that Stanton usually has an issue with. He's unable to see the off speed, unable to differentiate the off speed and the fastball. And the fact that he's able to do both perfectly at the most important time of the year, it looks really good right now. And yeah, I'm just feeling good about the Yankees overall. And I know Judge has not been the best as of yet. We'll go into that a little bit more throughout this episode. But it is good to see that he was able to perform yesterday, and I'm hoping this keeps up with Stanton and Glaber at the top of our order, and we're able to continue producing runs. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I mean, what you said about Glaber there, he really did have the first couple months of his season were kind of tough. But, I remember thinking throughout the season, like since like mid-May, this guy's really been hitting. And, you can say what you want about his defense. Everybody knows that Glaber Torres is not a good defensive second baseman. He makes some really bonehead plays. And then he's made some base running decisions that actually did get him benched in a game. But since he got benched for that one base running error, he's still been producing at the plate. So he could really, a lot of people think the Yankees aren't going to re-sign Glaber, but he might be hitting himself into a new contract with the Yankees. But, someone who is not playing up to their contract right now, like you just mentioned him on, is Aaron Judge. Just really tough, first series for him. He had a two-run home run last night, as you mentioned. There were some nice insurance runs, but he just hasn't been good overall. He's batting 167 with a 735 OPS and a 109 WRC plus. Those numbers looked a lot worse before he hit that home run last night, and before the CS, he's hit a couple of sac flies so far. But sorry, just but yeah, he really hasn't been good in the postseason since like 2020. I think last I checked, his postseason OPS since 2020 is like somewhere in the 500 to 600 range. That's not what we pay Aaron Judge to do. He's the captain. He's supposed to take us to the promised land. And really, just through the first series for him this playoffs, his timing looked really off. There were a lot of pitches that he missed. He was getting thrown around a lot. I think he's still walking. That's the good news. He's still walking at a 23% clip. but he's striking out at a 23% clip as well because his timing is just off. He's missing pitches, down the middle that he shouldn't miss. But in game three of the ALDS, he did start to swing better. He hit a few balls hard, but right at fielders, like he hit a screaming line drive right to Bobby Witt Jr. But then in game four, he had a big RBI double. And then, of course, last night he hit that home run and sac fly. So, Naaman, do you think that Aaron Judge can be putting himself back on track here and at a really good time, honestly, because if you could get, one of those tears that Aaron Judge goes on that, he's famous for, where he hits like 10 home runs in like a week and a half, then, the Yankees have a really good chance of winning the World Series, if, lack of a better word.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like you said, Judge hasn't been performing to expectation, but like you also said, he's been playing a lot better recently. And seeing that he's actually connecting on balls that he should be hitting. And it seems that he's also taking the pitches that he hadn't necessarily been taking at the beginning of the playoffs. It's really a good sign. And one thing that we should also keep in mind is that Judge has actually had a 370 xWOBA around even through this playoffs, which he's been torrid in. So that just gives me hopes that throughout the rest of the ALCS and the World Series, hopefully we make it, he should be good. He's on a good track. But again, baseball is sometimes just a horrendous sport. And no matter how well you hit the ball in a small sample size, the outcome is not always there. But I feel like Judge has not performed for long enough now. And he really needs to show Yankee fans that he's the captain of this team. And rather than just performing in the regular season, which has been amazing, he needs to perform in the playoffs and more importantly in the World Series. And my prediction is that Aaron Judge is gonna go bonkers in the World Series and he's gonna take home a World Series MVP and honestly show the fans why he's the captain. And I know that's a bit, optimistic right now, but with the way he's been hitting the ball and the fact that honestly, I don't care too much about his strikeouts as long as he's not striking out on pitches that he should hit. And the fact that he's been able to walk consistently, like Aiden mentioned earlier, at a 23% clip, it's super promising. And I'm hoping that our captain shows up. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I really hope he regresses to the mean there because, he is hitting the ball hard a lot more recently. Like he's been hitting the ball hard this series and in the last games of the series against Kansas City. So hopefully he's regressing to the mean there. You want to have those balls find some holes, some gaps, some seats as well, preferably. But, now moving on to the pitching, we've talked enough about the offense. The Yankees pitching has been, pretty good. The starters have been, little on and off. Rodon wasn't so great in game two of the DS, and Garrett Cole wasn't great in the first game of the DS. But through the first two games of the ALCS, they were both pretty good. Maybe Cole a little less so, but Rodon, he did start game two of the DS and he came out dealing. He got a bunch of Ks, but he kind of let his emotions get the better of him. He was a little too amped up. And then once things started to unravel, it just, it all fell apart for him and he had to come out of the game. But he was magnificent in game one of the ALCS. 6 innings pitched, 3 hits, 1 earned run on a home run to Brian Rocchio and 9 strikeouts. So he really threw like one bad pitch. His curveball looked really, really good. He was mixing that in a lot more. His usage took an uptick on that. And it had a few more inches of horizontal movement. So he's getting like more sweep on it. And he had 25 whiffs on the night. That's the Carlos Rodon that the Yankees signed in the offseason 2 years ago. Not the one you saw last year where, he was serving up like what 8 earned runs in the first inning against the Royals towards the end of the year. But he's looked really good. He looked really good last game. Uh, Garrett Cole has been like a tale of his two versions of himself. He was okay in game one of the ALDS, allowing 3 earned runs. His command just wasn't there, and the Royals kind of were hitting him a little bit hard with 7 hits. Game four of the ALDS, though, he was the ace we know. He was Ace Cole, 7 innings pitched, 6 hits, 1 earned run, 4 strikeouts, and that helped the Yankees clinch the series in that game. And then in game two, just last night, He was okay, but his command dropped off a little bit. I think in the third or fourth inning, he went 4 and 1/3 innings pitched, 6 hits, 2 earned runs, 4 walks. Really don't like that, and 4 strikeouts. So he's been okay. He hasn't been the ace that we know, but he's been an effective pitcher that keeps the Yankees in games, and you can't really be mad about that because that's what you need in the playoffs. You just need to keep the offense in the game, and if the offense does their job, you're gonna win that baseball game. So, Naman, what have you seen, not just from Carlos Rodon and Garrett Cole so far, but also some of the Yankees' other starters like Clark Schmidt, and I believe in Game 4 we'll probably be seeing Luis Heel, so that's a little exciting.
Yeah, so honestly, the pitching has looked really good so far. I am a little bit worried about Garrett Cole, just because of the fact that even though his results haven't been terrible, and I know he let up 0 runs in that game 4 of the ALDS, but his expected stats are not looking too great. If you look at his Sierra, which is, I don't know if how many of you guys are familiar with Sierra out there, but it's skill interactive ERA. So it sort of delves into a little more of the advanced metrics of ERA and tries to remove as many external factors as possible. So he had a 5.02 Sierra, which isn't great, and his xFIP, which is fielding independent pitching, was 539. And both of those were actually lowest out of any of the qualified pitchers for the Yankees. So honestly, that kind of concerns me. And just seeing the hard hits he was letting up, his lack of command, I'm a bit worried about that. But to end on a little bit of a more positive note, it is obviously only 3 games. Even expected stats don't mean too much through 3 games. Obviously, one great start can change all of that. But I'm hoping Cole sort of tightens up his command and is able to really attack the strike zone and locate his pitches a lot better than he has currently. And that's honestly what has made him excel throughout his career and in the playoffs in his career. So that's something to definitely keep a lookout for. And if you look at his K per nine, that's also been super low. I believe it's at like 6.61 right now. And that is not the Garrett Cole we all know and love. And though a lot of pitchers as they get older, they start to strike out less batters and get more ground balls. I'm hoping that's what Cole is able to convert his strikeouts into. But you just don't love to see the fact that he's just throwing a lot of balls outside the zone, and he's not really locating the pitches well enough for them to be grounders either. So I think that's something he can improve upon. And all things considered, he still didn't do too bad in his first 3 starts. So he has a really good spot to sort of change up things and not affect his postseason stats too much. Now going into Rodon, he's looked amazing. Like especially in his last start, like Aiden said. And he actually, going back to Sierra and xFIP, he actually had a 1.28 Sierra and a 1.42 xFIP through his first 2 starts in the Yankees for the Yankees during the postseason. And that is honestly mind-blowing to me because that beats out Luke Weaver, Tim Hill, Clay Holmes, any of these relievers that you've seen going absolutely bonkers in the postseason. So that's a great sign going forward. Hopefully, Rodon can keep this up. I'm loving what he's doing so far. He's really locating his pitches. And again, like Aiden said, getting those swings and misses, which is honestly the biggest thing in the playoffs, not letting up too many runs. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how our starters, if considering we get past the Guardians, I'm looking forward to seeing how they can do against a better offense like the Mets or the Dodgers. I'd say that's what I'm most concerned about. Considering the Guardians offense hasn't been too great throughout the year, I think we're going to dominate the series. And as long as our bullpen is able to keep things up, and again, like Aiden said, with Luke Weaver, Tim Hill, Clay Holmes, they've all been keeping things, been able to really show off their best stuff. And I think if they're able to continue doing that, we should honestly not have trouble at all from a pitching lens in this series.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, Cole and Rodon's stuff, they're both there, and that's the encouraging thing. Their stuff has looked really good. There's nothing abnormal about their RPMs or their velo. It's there. They just need to locate it, and Rodon has done a pretty good job of that, and Cole does need to do a better job. And that's what's, so concerning about Cole is that he's usually known for his command. He's a guy with sharp command and good stuff. That's why he's the pitcher that he is. So you really want to see him start hitting his spots a lot more. And I think it's also a little bit of a mental thing too. Like I love Garrett Cole. He's a competitor. He's a gamer, but he can either let things get the best of him or he doesn't. Like I feel like there's times where he does lock down and he says, "All right, I'm gonna get through this jam," and he gets through it. But there's other times like if he gets a bad call and lets up a walk or some dinky hit, then I think he lets it affect him too much. But, someone's stuff who has also been good is Clay Holmes and Luke Weaver have been phenomenal so far. I think it's pretty surprising that Clay Holmes has been so good. The bullpen has been unreal in general, I'd say. They've only allowed 2 runs so far. And that's through, I think like they've pitched 23 something innings,
Right.
the bullpen in total. And just going through a couple guys, Luke Weaver, of course. He's pitched 7 innings, 1 earned run, 9 strikeouts, and a 36% K rate. And he's only walked one hitter. He did serve up a homer to Jose Ramirez last night, but that was kind of in garbage time. By the way, if you hear any kind of whistling or hissing coming from my end, that's my radiator. Sorry about that. Clay Holmes has also been very, very good. He's surprised a lot of Yankees fans, including myself. He hasn't allowed a run in 6 and 2/3 innings pitched and has only allowed 3 hits. He's got 5 strikeouts, but he's really been effective because of his ability to induce ground balls at a 58.8% clip. That's very, very high. And like you even mentioned Tim Hill. He's been really good too. He allowed 1 run. I want to say I can't remember where he allowed 1 run. I don't know if it was this series or last series, but last night in game 2, he just kind of mowed through the Guardians order in 1 and 2/3 innings, and it was, quick like that. So the bullpen has been really good. Naman, do you think this bullpen can sustain this level of production? Can they, continue to get the Yankees through these games?
I do think that the bullpen can sustain the level of production just because they've been doing it all year. That's one thing we really haven't had to worry about too much, especially in the second half of the season and towards the end. People like Luke Weaver have come out. I know Clay Holmes had his struggles, but when he's not in that closing role and just as a middle reliever, he seems to be really thriving there. And one other thing I really like about Tim Hill is he actually hasn't walked a hitter yet, which is huge. So if he's able to continue with that command, I know he doesn't strike out too many people, but he doesn't need to with his ground ball percentage. So honestly, this is looking great. And for you stats nerds out there, just to throw a couple more Sierras out there for you guys. Luke Weaver, it's not just outcome. He's been insane. He has a 1.96 Sierra. Tim Hill actually has a 2.45 Sierra. And honestly, with who would have predicted that at the beginning of the year that Luke Weaver and Tim Hill would be some of our top relievers in the postseason and are going to be one of the biggest reasons we're able to get to the World Series. So yeah, it's just really awesome to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's really surprising because, in the last month of the season, or really throughout the season, I'd say the bullpen was the big question mark. Everybody thought, is the Yankees bullpen good enough to get through the postseason? Everybody knew the starting pitching was good. Everybody knew the offense was good, but it was the bullpen. It was Clay Holmes blowing games, but they've arguably been like the best aspect of this Yankees team so far and why they've been able to get through these games. So, just moving on to a little preview of game 3, or yeah, game 3 before we finish up here. It's going to be Clark Schmidt versus Matthew Boyd, just making sure Boyd is actually starting. Schmidt had a start against Cleveland earlier in the regular season in April. He went 5 innings, only 1 earned run, 7 strikeouts, and only 3 hits, but he did allow 5 walks. Don't really like that, but I don't think we'll see that Clark Schmidt uh, in game 3. And on Matthew Boyd, Judge hit a home run off of him back in August when they faced Cleveland, and so did Soto. I'm pretty sure that's when they went back to back, that one game
Yeah.
at home. And then, just a key to, I think, the rest of the series and game three, especially just get on the board early. You want to get on the board in the early innings so you can just not have to face the back end of that Cleveland bullpen. I do not want to see Emmanuel Clase in one of these games. He's too scary. He's too good. I don't want to see him while we're down because I don't think there's any coming back from that. And, unless he has one of his few blown saves. So, just thinking about game three a little bit, just doing a little bit of predictions. I got a little fun prediction. I'm sure you got one too, Naman. Austin Wells has not been good in the playoffs so far. I actually think he's going to get moved out of the cleanup role pretty soon, maybe even in game three. But I'm predicting that he's going to have a big hit in game three. I'm not a home run. I don't think it's going to be a home run. Would be happy if it is, but I'm feeling a big hit from Wells to break out of that slump. And I think it's, going to give the Yankees the lead, somewhere late in the game. So Naman, what's your little fun, bold prediction for game three?
So honestly, like you said, I have a feeling that Judge and Soto are going to go back to back. It's a very bold prediction, but they've done it before against him, I believe, and seeing them do it again, it's honestly very possible. And piggybacking on the what you said about Austin Wells getting moved out of the cleanup role, I think this sort of jumps back to what we were talking about earlier in the conversation. I think if they're able to move Austin Wells to a little bit later in the lineup and give Stanton that cleanup spot, this will not only help their offense in terms of Stanton just getting more plate appearances, but Judge might actually be able to thrive more through this. So Judge, if you've been watching the games, he's been getting pretty lethal pitches, really well located. And even if they're slightly outside of the zone, some of them will become walks, like we both said that he's been able to do. But if they're not walks, he has to try to go out and get some because honestly, pitchers just aren't scared of Austin Wells. You see Glaber, who's been going off lately, coming up, and you see Soto, then Judge, and Stanton right after Wells. There's a big hole right in between them. And I just think pitchers aren't too scared seeing Wells uh in that spot behind Judge. So I think that's something that can potentially help Judge sort of be unlocked throughout the rest of the postseason. And yeah, honestly, though, one positive note on Wells, he's actually hit the ball really well in that last game. That last plate appearance looked really good for him. I was actually at the game. Obviously, the crowd was insane, and it was the best time. But you're able to see all the exit velocities of his pitches, and he hit three foul balls with over a 105 mile per hour exit velo, with one of them at 111 miles per hour, which honestly shook me. And then he hit a line drive, which was around 106, I believe. That probably should have been a hit. So hopefully he's able to sort of build upon that. And though I still believe that moving him a little bit later in the lineup would be good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of why I put in that prediction here because I saw his last at bat last night. I was like, hey, he's hitting the ball pretty hard here. And then even after Judge's home run, when he was up next, he was hitting a lot of foul balls hard too, I think. Yeah, there was one that I thought was a home run, but like it just went foul. But I think even if you move him down in the order, uh, that takes a lot of pressure off of him, and I think that could help him. I think he is kind of feeling that pressure right now with the four hole between Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton in the playoffs. So just, take the pressure off of him and maybe he'll, start finding some hits. But that's all we got for you guys today in this episode of the Fordham Sports Analytics Roundup. Like we said before, we're aiming to bring you guys more episodes in the future with some new faces from the club, get some more content out from it, and hopefully we'll get some fun guests on here as well. We hope you enjoyed this episode and make sure to subscribe, follow us on our socials rather, and go Yankees, go Mets if you root for them. Or I can't say anything if you're a fan of another baseball team, unless you're a Dodgers or Guardians fan for some reason. But Yeah, that's all I got for you today. All we got for you today. I'm Aiden Baychamp. That's Naman Lakini, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, go Yankees.